You see that? Just
Yep.
okay, cool. Tell me when.
Okay, 1, 2.
All right, so in today's show, what we're going to be discussing is what is your why? It's December 26th. Christmas was yesterday. New Year's is about to start, and a lot of people are going to start their New Year's resolutions. Now, I'm a firm believer you don't need a new year to start a goal. You don't even need a Monday to start a goal. Some people just say all you need is a tomorrow, but I'm going to take that even one step further and say all you need is today. You can start your goals today. So the reason why I'm sharing that is because we are going to discuss what is your why in real estate, or excuse me, in life. What's your why in life? Is it your kids? Do you do what you do to provide the best life for your kids? Or maybe you want to pay off your parents' house or buy them a new house. What is it that's going to make you do the extra grind outside of your already 9 to 5 grind to get ahead in life? It's got to be big. Your why has to be massive for you to want to take extra action, go to bed later than normal, wake up earlier than normal to be able to achieve your goals, because you're already busy with your 9 to 5 and your life. And now you want to get ahead in life. So now you have to dig out more time to figure out where to do that. And that's usually going to be where you sleep. You're going to sleep less. For some people, they might not have a weekend. They're going to work 7 days a week instead of 5. Wherever that is, your why has to be big enough to make you want to do those uncomfortable things. So we're going to talk about your why and a roadmap on how to get there. So stay tuned and keep watching the show.
1, 2. Go.
All right, guys, I want to thank you so very much again for investing in my real estate course. What I wanted to do is share with you what is your why and why it's so important. What's going to make you do the extra grind, the extra 9 to 5, the extra outside of your 9 to 5 to make you want to achieve your goals? Is it your kids? Are you going to be willing to work late nights, early mornings, outside of your 9 to 5 to be able to provide a lifestyle for your kids? Or is it maybe that you want to pay off your parents' house or buy them a new house? Whatever it is, you're going to have to figure out a why that is big enough to make you so uncomfortable that you're willing to go past that uncomfortability to be able to achieve your goals. And we're getting ready to do my radio show, and I wanted to film this just for you guys so that you can hear about the why and the roadmap on how to get there. All right, guys, you are in for a special treat because, no, I'm not going to say that. Then we're going to be like, this isn't special. All right, sorry. Let me know when you're ready.
We're good.
Okay. All right, so I'm getting ready to do my radio show now, and I thought I would dedicate this show just for you because I want to thank you guys so very much again for investing in my real estate course. What I'm going to talk about today on the radio is what is your why? Okay, your why is the reason why you're going to do what it is that you're going to do to become successful. So, is your why maybe your children? A lot of people's why is to be able to provide a wonderful life for their kids. Or is your why maybe to pay off your parents' house or buy your parents a house? I hear that a lot. Whatever it is, your why is so big that when you are uncomfortable doing the grind, it doesn't even matter because your goal, your why is so important to you that none of the negativity, the failures, the setbacks will even phase you. So, you're going to want to listen to this show because I'm going to go over how to choose your why so that you can figure out what's going to keep you driven and the roadmap on how to get there. Good morning, everybody. You are listening to... Oh, this is a mute. Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki. I hope everybody had a spectacular Christmas. Man, it went by so quickly. I can't believe how fast this year went by. As challenging as the year has been for many, I feel like it just flew by. Next thing you know, it's Christmas, and then the next thing you know, Christmas is over. And now, of course, we have got New Year's right here on the horizon. That's going to be interesting with all the social distancing. I know a lot of people like to get together downtown or in Times Square if you're in New York City, so I'm not even sure what's going to happen there. But what I thought would be a great thing to discuss and go over today, what a great topic to chat about, being the end of the year and being that we're an entrepreneurial show, a a winning mindset show, a real estate show, I thought I would chat about what is your why. You hear people talk about this like Tony Robbins, and your why is basically the reason why you do what you do, right? The reason why you're willing to put in the extra work to do whatever it is to take to be able to provide whatever you want to provide as far as a lifestyle for you and your family. So your why could be your kids, right? You want to give your kids the best life possible. You want to send them to college. You want to give them, the things that maybe you didn't have. Your why could be maybe your dream career, right? You work really hard at whatever it is that you do because you have a passion and a dream to pursue something. Maybe you want to pursue the entertainment industry, or maybe you're trying to be a professional athlete. It's interesting. You'll hear these MMA fighters and boxers. They'll get interviewed, and for those that don't come straight out of the Olympics, let's say for boxing, for example, a lot of the ones that go to the Olympics will kind of turn pro if they want to turn pro right after. But the guys that don't make the Olympics, they have this long career sometimes before they can quit their 9 to 5 and focus on boxing full time. They're electricians, they're handyman, they're whatever it is that they do at work 9 to 5, and then they go to the gym and train, and as long as their career keeps progressing and they keep winning, eventually their paychecks and their fights become bigger and bigger enough to support their dream. So is your why maybe a dream career, right? It doesn't have to just be boxing. It could be I had a buddy who was an amateur baseball player, right? Played in the minor leagues and was trying to play in the major leagues, and he had to have a job when it wasn't baseball season because minor league baseball players didn't make necessarily, at least he didn't make a big enough income during minor league baseball season to support his family. So he had a job when it wasn't baseball season, right? So he was grinding for a dream career. Now, your dream career could, or I should say your why, could also be your family. Maybe it's traveling. Maybe you love to travel. Or you oftentimes hear athletes on television that say, when they make it big, or individuals that make it big, people will ask them, so what was like the biggest thing that you purchased in the beginning? What was your first biggest purchase? And oftentimes hear, I bought my parents a home, or I paid off my parents' house, right? That was their why. They were driven to make life easier for their parents. Or maybe we had a guest a few weeks ago who came in here. He's a real estate investor, one of the largest wholesalers in the country, and he said his why was just having freedom and flexibility. All he knew is he wanted the freedom to do what he wanted with his family and to be able to travel and have that flexibility and not have to punch in. He was a 9 to 5-er to begin with, and he went out there and just grinded the real estate industry till he got to a place where now he has enough passive income. He's got the freedom to do what he wants. So what is your why? Take a second to think about that, because your why is what's going to push you to become whatever it is that you want to become, right? For some of you, like I said, it might be freedom and flexibility, like this gentleman that came on our show. You just want to be able to be your own boss. You want to be able to have enough passive income, or just income in general, that you could take a week off here, a week off there, several times throughout the quarter, not the year, but throughout the quarter, and do that every quarter so that you can enjoy time with your family. And you right now are going to work punching in every single day thinking, man, there's got to be more to this. So what you want to do is you want to come up with a why that you can that will motivate you. So I want to dedicate this message to the students, my students who invested in my course. So we're going to dive into, is your why powerful enough to make you take action? Okay, so some people will say, my why is to become rich, okay? They just want to be rich. So is your why powerful enough to take action? We're going to talk about how being rich alone is usually not enough to make someone take action. So what motivates you to want to go out there and do the extra work, do the extra grind, right? Like, we already go out there and we already do what we need to do, but then the extra stuff, what motivates you to go do that extra stuff? So now motivation is different from inspiration, right? We can go to a movie and we can watch this movie and get all inspired by the good message of this movie or this video we're watching on YouTube, let's say. The second that video ends, or the second that movie ends, the inspiration leaves your body as well, right? Motivation's what sticks around. So we can go, like, think about that. You've watched a movie, you watched a video, and all of a sudden you're feeling inspired as you're watching that. And then as soon as the movie ends, the next video starts, you're on to the next, video, and that inspiration's gone, right? So motivation is what's going to make you take action over and over and over. All right, so again, and that is why we have to have such a strong why. If you have a weak why, like I just want to be rich, that's not going to make you get up and take action over and over and over and over again. But if your why is like, I want to make a great living so that I can provide for my kids a lifestyle that, I didn't have or whatever, then that's the type of motivation that's going to get you out of bed or keep you up later at night than normal to put in that extra grind. So I want to share a story here. I had gone to a real estate seminar. We're probably talking about 15 years ago, maybe even longer, but about 15 years ago, give or take. And I was sitting in the audience. I was listening to this individual who's a friend of mine now. His name is John Dessauer, and it was great. He was sharing on stage, and then another speaker was sharing on stage, and then another speaker was sharing on stage, and I was kind of listening to all of these individuals, but it was fun to see a friend up on stage. But nonetheless, one of the speakers got up there, and he told a story where he was teaching at a seminar similar to the seminar I was at, right? He was on stage, there was an audience full of people, and he looks out to the crowd and says, let me rewind here for a second. He tells his whole education, he shares his whole education spiel that he was giving to the students. He gets to the point where he's all done, he's wrapping up his talk, his speech, and he wraps up his speech by saying, just by a show of hands, who's going to go out there and actually take action? Please raise your hand, right? And of course, everybody raises their hand because everybody just paid big money to be in the audience to hear what this guy had to share. He's teaching how to invest in real estate, and we all had paid a heavy ticket price to learn, these secrets and tricks and of the trade. And so everybody raises their hand except for one lady. One lady stands up. So obviously she stands out, right? And so he's looking in the audience and he's like, oh, wow, okay, this lady's standing up. So he, gets on the mic. He's like, oh, ma'am, hey, thank you for standing up. Do you mind if I ask why you're standing up? And she says, yes. No, I don't mind why you ask why I'm standing up. The reason why I'm standing up is you just asked who's going to go out there and take action. And she says, I'm standing up to let you know that I have to take action. I don't just want to take action. I have to take action. She shared how her son was on life support and had been on life support for a very long time and was at the point where the hospital was now sharing with her that unless she could pay X amount of dollars per month or whatever it was, that it was going to be time to consider pulling the plug on her son's life support. And so she invested in this real estate course because she needed to figure out how to make money as quickly as possible, larger than what she was making at her 9-to-5, just to be able to keep her son alive on life support. See, that is true motivation. That's what's going to get you out of bed early, having to go to bed late at night, and taking massive action every second that you can. She's going to still go to her job, her 9-to-5, but before and after, she's going to grind it out every single day. That's not inspiration. That's motivation. And that is why you need to figure out what is your why. Not what inspires you, but what is your why. What's going to keep you motivated to take massive action on a regular, consistent basis, daily, hopefully, like this woman who stood up and shared that she has to if she wants to keep her son alive. That is what I mean by take a second. And for some people, obviously, that's, their why might not be that big. I mean, that's a huge why, but you can tell that that is a why that would make any parent do the extra, taking the extra hustle, the extra grind, and doing more than what they would normally do. Not being rich, right? Again, you'll hear people like, I want to be rich, but then they don't do anything because being rich is not motivating enough to do the extra grind that takes to, go to bed late, wake up early, do that extra hustle. It's just not a motivating factor. It's just not enough of a motivating factor. Why do you want to be rich, right? So here's the reality. For the most part, anyone can achieve their goals or greatness or whatever their heart desires, but most people just won't pursue it long enough to see it happen because their why was not important enough to keep going through all of the hardship and all of the downs and nightmares through, pursuing one's goals, right? If it's a difficult enough goal, there's going to be a lot of downs before you get that top. And so being rich, I had a mentor share this with me. He's like, because he had seen it a lot. Like he would mentor people, and the biggest thing a lot of people would say was, I just want to be rich. That's why I invested in this real estate course, because the guy on the television show or the radio commercial said that if I buy this course, I too could be rich. And he's like, okay, well, that's true. But is being rich alone just going to make you want to get out of bed early and go to bed late at night? No. What is it that you're going to do with the wealth, right? And that's where your why is. I'm going to travel the world with my kids, right? That's what's going to get you out of bed early and going to bed late. So you cannot just say that you want to be rich. I had a guest on my show, maybe a month ago, who played for the Oakland Raiders, and he said it so perfectly. He's in the fitness industry. He's retired from the NFL now, and he's in the fitness industry. And a lot of people, when he's coaching them or mentoring them, he'll ask them, okay, what is your goal? And they're like, I don't know, I just don't want to be overweight. And he's like, that's not a good enough goal. That's like saying, I want to be rich, but having no detail to that goal, right? Why don't you want to be overweight? Well, is it because you struggle going up the stairs, or is it because you don't like your appearance, or what is it? And what do you want to look like, right? So what's your goal? What do you want to look like? And their goal, they tell him, is I just don't want to be overweight. And he's like, no. Do you want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was in the Terminator and won Mr. Olympia? Or do you want to be like Sylvester Stallone when he was the actor in Rambo? Or do you want to be like Hugh Jackman in Wolverine? Because all three of those individuals were ripped, they were not overweight, but they all had an extremely different body build that would take an extremely different roadmap to get to that result. You have to know exactly what you want to know, to be able to create the roadmap to get to wherever your goal is. So to be rich is just like saying, I don't want to be overweight. You have to know exactly why you want to be rich or wealthy or whatever it may be. It's to travel the world with your family. It's to buy your parents a home. It's to pay off their home. It's to have the flexibility and freedom. You have to know exactly why so that you can start working towards that goal in its unique path, because every path is going to be different, right? So here's an interesting statistic that they did a study. Do you know what most wealthy people have in common? I'm going to give you a second here to think about it. They did a study amongst all these wealthy people to figure out what do they have in common. And the majority of them, think about this for a second, take a quick guess in your head. Okay, the majority of wealthy people, what they had in common was wealthy parents. They had a wealthy upbringing. So Georgetown did a study on adults who were wealthy, and they did the story related to academics, wealth related to academics. And the title of the article was this: To succeed in America, it is better to be born rich than to be smart. Think about that. So a lot of individuals who were very talented, were very intelligent, that got great grades, but were born in an environment that one wouldn't consider rich, grew up to be less likely to be rich than the kid who grew up rich, but was challenged at school, didn't get good grades, didn't graduate in honors. He still was the one who ended up becoming the most successful in life. Those individuals, those boys and girls that grew up with wealthy parents, ended up becoming wealthy themselves. So maybe that's your why. Maybe your why is to break the cycle in your family and become the first person in your family to become wealthy so that your kids and grandkids and their grandkids can also have that advantage in life moving forward because of the action that you're willing to take today for your next generations, right? So maybe you can become the first person in your family to become wealthy so that your kids then, because you're wealthy, have a better chance of becoming successful and wealthy themselves. Isn't that crazy? I mean, the most commonality that these wealthy people had that they did in the experiment was they came from wealthy people. They don't have to be smart. You just have to grow up wealthy, and you have a better chance of becoming wealthy than if you are smart. And super interesting study, but maybe that's your why, is to break the cycle of, becoming the first person to be able to create generations of wealth due to the actions that you take today. So for me, my why, I love spending time with my kids, right? Like every day I wake up, I figure out, okay, what am I going to do with my kids today? And there are a couple of things that I really, I would have to say have driven me in my career entrepreneurial life over the last 30 years, 25, 30 years. And my kids are the latest why, because I only have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So as of 5 years ago, my why became my children. How can I spend as much time with my children as possible? But prior to that, my why is I'm the guy who loved to do what I did, loved to put in the extra hustle, loved to do the grind because it allowed me the freedom to pursue my dream career, right? We talked about the individual who is a professional major, or a friend of mine who was a minor league baseball player, and because he had a minor league baseball contract that wasn't large enough to support his family, on the off season he had to work. So his why on why he did the extra work was to be able to continue to be able to afford to keep playing minor league baseball in hopes of going to the majors. Same thing for me, except I wasn't a baseball player. My career path has always been entertainment. My dream career has always been the entertainment industry. And what's really cool about that is, as of January next month, I am going to be on Good Things Utah. I'm moving to television. So by grinding and doing the extra work, little by little, my dream career is, still growing, even at this age, right? And so I'm never giving up. It's one of those things that we talked about earlier. Most people will never see their goals happen, even though they have the capability of making them happen, because they're just not willing to pursue what it takes long enough, so they end up quitting, which is why we talk about you got to know what your why is. Your why has to be strong enough to keep you from quitting. Well, my why is strong enough that it's, to this day, after pursuing the entertainment industry for the last 25, 30 years, I'm still pursuing it. Most people would have given up by now. So, and luckily, because I am still pursuing it, little by little, I'm on this radio show now on a weekly basis, and as of next month, I'll be on television, and, who knows what's from there. The sky's the limit. And so, for me, pursuing my career dream, and then the freedom and flexibility, that's been the other why that I do what I do, why I put in the extra work, because it allows me to do what I want, when I want, which pretty much is, with who I want, which is pretty much my family, which is why I love real estate so much, which is why we're, a dominantly real estate show and entrepreneurial show, because real estate gives you that ability. You don't punch in, you don't punch out, there's no boss. You're if you're willing to go out there and do the hustle, do the grind, you've got a big enough why that you will take action, massive action on a daily basis. Real estate's a great tool to be able to set you up to have that flexibility. Because of the flexibility I have, I'm able to continue to pursue my career, my dream career, and because of the flexibility that I have, I also get to spend an enormous amount of time with my kids where most 9-to-5ers don't, right? I'm with my kids, well, one, I work from home. Even before the pandemic, I worked from home, which gave me an enormous amount of time to speak, or to spend time with my kids. But I don't just spend time with them in the house. We plan activities, we do things that make life fun, build memories, and those are the things that real estate's been able to provide, is that flexibility to do what it is that I want with who I want when I want. Okay, so what you need to do is spend the next week, we've got until New Year's, Spend the next week really thinking about what you really want, and I mean really want. And this will help you discover your why. What is it that you really want? And it doesn't have to be a New Year's resolution. You know, there's a saying out there that I love, and it says, you don't need a new year to produce, or you don't need a new year to take action on a goal. You don't need a Monday to take action on a goal. You just need tomorrow to take action on a goal. And you can take it one step further and say, you just need today to take action on a goal, right? So many people are quick to procrastinate a goal. Okay, at New Year's, I'm going to start doing this and that. At New Year's, I'll pursue my dream career. Or on Monday, I'll start eating healthier. Or on Monday, I'll start taking action and jogging once a day or once a week or whatever. No, we don't even need to have a Monday. We just need today. If you've got a dream career or you've got a goal, you've got a passion, you don't have to necessarily take massive action today, but you can start. You can definitely start today, and once you start, then that starts to build momentum, right? As you start to take a little bit of action, it's like a snowball that comes down, rolling down a big mountain. You know, it's this little tiny snowball at first, and then it just kind of builds and gets bigger and bigger as you get momentum. Once you start getting momentum, it's like a big locomotive. It's like that big snowball. Think about once something's got that momentum, how hard it is to stop. Like trains, those big locomotives that pull, they're so slow to get going. But once they're going, they're so hard to stop. If you just take a little bit of action today, eventually that little bit of action will turn into a little bit of more action, and a little bit more action, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, to the point where now you've got momentum where it's just absolutely normal to take massive action on a daily basis. You don't even know different because it's now your lifestyle. You're going to be almost impossible to stop to achieve your goal. But you've just got to get to the point where you're that locomotive, that train that's just sitting there with 50, 60 cars behind it, trying to pull it, trying to get started, trying to get rolling. But, it's so difficult. It's so hard to start going. But if you do, eventually you will start to see yourself moving forward in a very, non-stoppable manner. So, once you figure out what your why is, and you understand what it is that's going to make you, it's a big enough why, make you take the action. Again, it's not to be wealthy. It's not to just, for the sake of being rich to be rich, but it's to pay off your parents' house, or to have that freedom and flexibility that you're not punching in for the next 30, 40 years of your life to a boss who you're making wealthy but not yourself wealthy, right? Whatever that why is, once you have figured that out, then you're going to want to create your roadmap how to get there, okay? Don't try and head towards your destination without a map. See, you have to research the path as best as possible, or hire a mentor who has driven the path already and can guide you on your roadmap. So, I'm going to share with you what I mean by that. We're going to take a commercial break, and I'm going to share with you when we come back creating your roadmap, the importance of having a roadmap, because without a roadmap, you will waste a lot of time. And trust me, not knowing what I didn't know back when I started down the path of entrepreneurship and did it without a map, and boy, did I waste a lot of time, and then realized, okay, yeah, I need to hire mentors who can shortcut the path that I was on and take me on the path that I needed to be on to direct me to where my goal, my end result was. So, stay tuned. We will be right back after this commercial break. K-Talk Radio 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki. And today, we are discussing your why. And why are we discussing your why? Because we all have goals, dreams that we want to pursue. However, many of us don't. For whatever reason, we don't believe in ourselves that we can actually achieve them. I've coached thousands of people across America on the topic of real estate. I'm a national public speaker on the topic of real estate, and I've met, as I said, thousands of people throughout my coaching time. And it's incredible to me how many people feel that they don't have the capability to succeed in their goals, right? you start to talk with them and they just don't believe in themselves. And so that's why we're talking about our why. It's so important. Our why is so important because our why is what makes us want to go out there and literally face fear and failure, right in the eyes, and be able to push forward even though fear and failure may beat us most of the time, right? So you've got to be willing to step up. Richard Paul Evans was a guest on our show, New York best-selling author. He shared a great message. Your dreams, your goals have to be bigger than your fears. If they're not, your fears are going to constantly win over, right? And so you have to be willing to go up to your fears, and maybe your fears, punch you right in the face, and your failures knock you right on the ground, but your goals are so much bigger that you're willing to get up. Because if your goals are not much bigger, then you're just going to turn around and walk the other direction instead of get back up and press forward. So that's why we're talking about our why today, because it literally is what's going to drive those people who don't feel they're capable, right? That don't feel they can achieve, that don't feel they can start their own business, although they want to. They've got this great idea for an invention. They've got this great idea for a business, yet they stay at their 9 to 5, work their butts off to make somebody else wealthy because they don't have the belief system in themselves that they could do it for them, right? And so that is why it's so important to understand what your why is, to find what the biggest why you have is. Like I said, a lot of, speaking to lots of people throughout my mentoring, coaching career, a lot of people's why is either their parents, paying off their parents' house or buying their parents a new home, or their kids. These whys are so grand, so big that it makes them stay motivated and not inspired. We already talked about how inspiration is something that comes in and goes out very, very quickly. You're watching a movie, you're watching a video, that video inspires you, but the second that video is over and the next one plays, that inspiration's gone, right? Motivation's what's going to keep you doing massive action on a day-to-day basis. All right, so now I want to talk about creating a roadmap, because if you don't have a roadmap, you're going to take a lot of wrong turns in life and waste a lot of time, right? And we don't want to waste time. Who wants to waste time? So many people, when they jump into the entrepreneurial business, they're like, I'm going to figure this out. And then, I'll tell people, I think you should go find a mentor in your local market if you're going to do that, right? And hire, oh, no, I don't want to spend the money. That money I can put into my business. I'm just going to figure it out. Okay, wait till that money's gone because you figured it out wrong, and now you don't have the money or a mentor, right? One of the best investments you can make in your business is make the investment in yourself. Hire people who've already taken the path that you want to take. Hire mentors to help you, coach you where you want to go. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by a roadmap. Let's just say that we were in Toronto, Canada, okay? We're not even in the United States. We're not even in Utah. We're all the way up in Canada, and we're in Toronto. And I tell you, hey man, I got a goal for you. I want you to get in this car right here, and I want you to drive to a house, 1234 House Street in Panama City. And now you can't use Siri, you can't use Google Maps, you can't use Alexa, you can't use even a paper map. You can use nothing. You cannot use one tool as far as a map tool to get there. I just want you to get in your car, give me your phone, and figure out how to drive down there. I want you to figure out how to get to Panama City at a house on 1234 House Street with no tools whatsoever. Could you do it? Probably. You can eventually figure it out and do it. See, here's the thing. The Google Maps, I Google mapped this last night. It takes 84 hours, okay? 84 hours from Toronto, Canada, if you drove nonstop to Panama City. What does that mean? Well, if you drove an 8-hour day from 9 to 5 for 8 hours a day, it would take you 10 and a half days to get down there, right? So if you used Google Maps and used a tool to get you down there and you drove 8 hours a day, in 10 and a half days, you would drive from Toronto, Canada to Panama City, Panama, right? However, think about this. If you didn't have a map, and I literally gave you an old 1980 car that didn't have a GPS in it, and took your phone from you and said you can't use any maps whatsoever, could you figure it out? Yes, but you're probably not going to get there in 84 hours flat. It's going to take you a lot of wrong turns. Let me just share with you, by country and state, the path. We're not even talking city here, right? So if you were to get in your car and start at Toronto, Canada, the first state that you would enter when you entered the United States of America would be Michigan. Okay, I don't even know what city it is, but it's just the state of Michigan. Now from Michigan, you have to figure out how to get to the next state, which is Indiana. And that's if you head in the right direction. You might take a wrong turn and start heading east or west or southeast or southwest and not find yourself in Indiana. And then you got to do a U-turn and come back and figure that out. But from Michigan, the next state, again, not city, just state. So we're shortcutting this a lot, because if it was city to city that you had to figure out how to get there in the shortest amount of time to make it in 84 hours, that's going to be it's going to be a huge list. So we're just going state here. So from Michigan, you're going to go to Indiana. From Indiana, you will somehow end up in Missouri, okay, without a road map. From Missouri, you will then end up in Arkansas. Then from Arkansas, you will end up in Texas. Now here's where it's going to get really tricky if you don't speak Spanish, because from Texas, you will then enter the country of Mexico. Now, if you don't speak Spanish and you don't know how to drive around Mexico, there's a really good chance that you're not going to get from Mexico to the next country, and we're not even going state anymore, from Mexico to Guatemala in the shortest, efficient, most amount of time, right? You have 84 hours to get from Toronto, Canada to Panama City, only driving 8 hours a day. You're not allowed to drive anymore. It's probably going to be very challenging, those 8 hours that you're driving each day in the country of Mexico, especially if you don't speak Spanish and can ask, for directions to Guatemala. Because if you said to somebody in Mexico, hey, listen, I'm trying to get to Panama City, they're not gonna know how to get to Panama City either, because the next country after Guatemala is Honduras, okay? And then after Honduras, you better still be speaking Spanish. You're gonna be into Nicaragua. And then after Nicaragua, you're gonna be in the country of Costa Rica. And then after the country of Costa Rica, you will be in Panama. Now, once you're in Panama, you now gotta find Panama City. And then once you're in Panama City, you now have to find the address to the exact house that I want you to go to. You can see how difficult it is every time you stopped at a gas station. This is what we do in life. Every time you stop at a gas station on your way from Toronto, Canada to Panama City, you're going to ask for directions. You're going to stop and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to figure out how to get to Indiana. Do you have the best, do you have any idea on which freeway I should take to Indiana? Because again, remember, you're not allowed to use any tools. You're going to figure this out. So now the gas station attendant says, I think you just get on that freeway and head that way, and that should get you to Indiana. And then, of course, it's the wrong way, right? It's the wrong freaking way. And now we wasted 8 hours, 5 hours, however many hours that we have to turn around and drive back, right? That's what so many people do in their entrepreneurial career. They're going to figure things out. So what do? Who do they talk to? The people that's in their inner circle who have not achieved where they want to go either, right? Who have not achieved the same goal, I should say, of where you want to go. So what happens? You start asking your parents or your best friend or your uncle, hey, listen, I'm trying to start a restaurant. They've never started a restaurant, so they give you bad advice. They give you the wrong freeway to take from Michigan to Indiana, and now you've wasted all this time going down a road taking advice from somebody who's not reached the destination that you want to reach, right? We do that all the time in life. That's why it's so important to hire somebody who's been down this road. So if we knew somebody who, has driven from Canada to Panama City over and over and over again without a map, that's who you want in your car. You don't want to have to figure this out. How difficult would that be to drive through all of those states, all of those countries, hoping that every gas station attendant you talk to, every fast food restaurant attendee that you chat with, that you pull over to get food and ask them for directions to Missouri, then to Arkansas, Texas, then to Mexico. Now you don't even speak Spanish. Maybe you do, but if you don't, now you're asking the guy at the gas station in Mexico how to get to Guatemala, and you're doing it in English. I mean, think about how tricky that is. That's what I mean by you want to hire the right people to create the roadmap that you need to take in your entrepreneurial world. Don't go figure things out because you're going to waste a lot of time. And the reason I'm sharing that is because when you waste a lot of time, guess what happens? You give up on your dreams and your goals. And that is why I shared earlier that anyone can achieve their goals and greatness, just most of them don't pursue it long enough to see it happen because one, it just wasn't that important to them, and two, all of those setbacks that they take along the way are bigger than their actual goal. Those setbacks frustrate you to the point where you end up just saying, forget it, I don't really need to do this challenge and driving from Toronto, Canada to Panama City. It's not that big of a deal. I'll just quit and go back to doing what I was doing because it's not that fun anyway, right? Because setbacks are not fun. And so that's why it's so important to come up with your why that's so big that when those setbacks happen, it doesn't even matter. You get back up and you keep moving forward. You get back in your car and you keep driving. Hopefully it's the right way, but eventually you get to your goal. That's why you want to hire a mentor so that those frustrations happen less frequently and so you can get to your goal much quicker. All right, so we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, I wanted to share a little bit about virtual investing with you guys. Here's what's crazy. Californians have been investing in the Salt Lake, Utah market for years and years and years for the fact that California has gotten so expensive, right? People in Los Angeles are buying investment properties in Salt Lake City because the cost to buy a property in Los Angeles is so expensive that they've been virtual investing here in Utah. Well, guess what? I got news for you. As of right now, unless the market does some type of correction and we see it go down, I shared this in 2019. I read an article that Salt Lake City hit the most unaffordable markets in America list in the top 25. Now we hit 25. So that's good because out of all the houses, all of the cities that are unaffordable, we're the most affordable at 25, right? That are on this list. But here's what, as of right now, as I'm bringing you this message, homes in Salt Lake City, for the most part, are becoming very challenging to cash flow unless you find a lot of opportunities, right? The professional real estate investor guys who are out there doing mass mailing campaigns, doing door knocking, doing cold calling, doing massive networking. Yes, these guys are still finding properties that can cash flow. But the average person who doesn't spend their whole day looking for properties or has a team looking for properties, the average property you're going to find no longer cash flows in Salt Lake City. So, what Californians were doing as far as buying Salt Lake real estate because we cash flowed, we now are going to, in the near future, have to do the same if you're looking for cash flow. Meaning, pretty soon, and I don't know when, we might go into some type of market correction, which would be, potentially advantageous if you're looking for cash flow properties. But there might be a time in the near future where if you want to purchase cash flowing real estate, you're going to have to now do what Californians did and go to another city. We're going to have to start virtual investing. And it's already happening. I have so many real estate investing friends that are going to Oklahoma, that are going to Atlanta, that are going to Indianapolis, that are going to Kansas City. Why? Because those markets still cash flow. So they are leaving. They live in Utah, but because we can't buy cash flowing properties in Utah anymore, again, unless you're a real estate professional who has a team that finds these for you, but the average individual's now starting to go to other markets to invest in real estate to have the potential to cash flow. And keep in mind, the guys that I'm talking about aren't your average individuals as far as real estate's concerned. A lot of these guys are real estate professionals who are investing in the Arkansas and the Oklahomas and the Atlantas. So you may want to, and you may not, but you may want to invest in real estate one day, and you live here in Salt Lake City or in the Utah market, and all of a sudden you start researching the prices and go, holy cow, things are expensive. And by the time I have to make my mortgage payment relative to the rental income that comes in, I'm negative cash flow. And now you're realizing I missed the freaking boat on being an investor in Salt Lake City. I should have started investing a couple years ago, or really like 10 years ago would have been the prime time, right? But nonetheless, you may find yourself now going, well, I can't even afford to buy an investment property in the Salt Lake market because it's going to be like, like the people in Los Angeles, they can't afford to buy an investment property in Los Angeles. It doesn't do them any good as far as cash flow. So they come here. Well, now we're going to have to go somewhere else and consider other markets. So I'm going to share some tips. I've been virtual investing for, probably 20-ish years. See, because here's where my career as a real estate investor started. I was living in New York City at the time. Very similar to Los Angeles in that you can't afford real estate. It's so expensive. So I was going to the real estate investment clubs in New York City, and they were teaching the people that lived in New York City how to invest outside of New York City, basically virtual invest. So I started learning how to virtual invest way before I ever learned how to local invest. Now I live in Salt Lake City. I've been living here now for approximately 12 years again. I was born and raised here, moved out of Utah, then came back and been back for about 12 years. And so the last 12 years I've been local investing. However, prior to that, it was all virtual investing for me. And so I wanted to share some tips when we get back from commercial break on things that you may want to start considering looking if that day comes where you think you may want to go outside of the Salt Lake City market as well. All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Home, I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and today we are talking about what is your why, because your why is so important. If you don't know what your why is, it's not detailed enough, you don't have a roadmap, you don't have a mentor, it's going to be very difficult to achieve your goals. So your why is going to keep you motivated if it's big enough. So if you don't have a big enough why, if you're not taking action on a daily basis, then you probably don't have a big enough why. You need to figure out what it's going to take to make you take action on a regular basis. All right, now let's dive into virtual investing here. So I want to share some tips with you. When you look into investing in a market outside of the one you live in, you probably don't know much about it. You'll hear of a lot of markets that are advantageous to go into. Indianapolis, Atlanta, Kansas City, Arkansas, Alabama, Oklahoma. I've just named off a bunch of places that I know of friends of mine who don't live in any of those places but invest in those places, right? And for whatever reason, they chose a particular market. Now, I never asked them why they chose that market. They could have been from there for all I know, or they could have family that lives there, which is a great reason to invest in a market outside of the market you live in, is then you have somebody you trust who can go check on these properties. But if you invest in a market, for example, I was living in New York City at the time, and I invested in Salt Lake City, Kansas City, and upstate New York. Now, Salt Lake City made sense. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City and had family here that I could, ask for help. However, Kansas City, I knew nobody, had never even been there in my life. In fact, to this day, I've only been there twice, I think, and that was to watch the New England Patriots play the Kansas City Chiefs, and that was also for the Major League All-Star Baseball game. I think I've been there 3 times. I went one other time. Anyways, I know nobody there right when I started investing, and so what I did is I researched markets that had a growing population and a growing economy that were also investing in themselves. Okay, so some cities are dumping money into themselves versus other cities that are not dumping quite as much money into themselves, right? Now, I'm not saying states, I'm talking in specific cities. So here in Salt Lake City, what's the mall that's downtown? City Creek. The City Creek, I think, was a $3 billion project, right? That's money being dumped into a city, whether it was the city itself or an investor who came in and was improving the city. That is the stuff that I look for. Cities that were kind of improving themselves, right? So one, Kansas City had a growing population, which was good because we want we want a market that have more people coming in than going out, because we're in the business of real estate. And we want people to occupy our rental properties, and we want people to purchase our flips. And so if we are in a market where people are leaving, that could be troublesome. 2, we want a growing economy, because oftentimes the growing economy is what brings people to the market. And then 3, a city that has money dumping into itself, whether it's an investor or whether it's the city itself. So Kansas City was the market that I ended up choosing as my next market. Now, here's the thing. Once you've figured out what city you want to be in, and there's going to be a lot of cities that you'll research that are going to have growing economy, growing population, and big money dumping into the city itself, then you might want to consider if it's a place that you like to visit, right? Because then you could do business and pleasure at the same time by going to that particular city. And maybe you have family there, and that's why you like to visit. But what you're going to do once you've picked this city is you're going to want to read the master plan of the city. You're going to go onto Google and you're going to Google master plan of whatever city. And the city might have multiple master plans chopped up into different parts of the city. But what the master plan is going to do is it's going to share with you the ideas and plans that the city has potentially in play for the city for the future, right? And so you can then decide if this is something that you feel comfortable getting on board, right? So I always say you don't want to be a pioneer in the real estate industry and go into a market that you feel is going to boom. You want to be a follower. You want to follow the big time investors. So that leads to the next step that you're going to want to do, which is find the 5%. So who's the 5%? The 5%, there's a statistic out there that states that 95% of the money that's controlled in this world is controlled by 5%. And that's the big Targets, the Walmarts, the Costcos, the massive corporations. I just named America's biggest corporations, but obviously every country has massive corporations, and that's the 5%. So we want to find the 5%. Where are they investing? So I'll jump onto Google Earth and find the Home Depots, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Costcos in a particular area. I don't want to be a pioneer and go in an area that the 5% is not investing in. See, the 5%, they spend lots of money to figure out what communities have enough households to support their business. So I just want to feed off of that research that they paid for and follow them, right? So I'll invest in neighborhoods, communities that these 5% have already set up. If there's a Costco there, if there's a Home Depot, a Walmart there, then that's a market that I'm going to feel, or an area or a neighborhood that I'm going to feel comfortable also investing in. But I don't want to go too far on the outskirts, right? I don't want to go too far away from the Costco's where I think, okay, this is the outskirts, but I think I can get real estate cheap here, because in due time, the outskirts then become where the infill, where everybody is investing, right? The population grows to that next neighborhood. And I don't want to be the pioneer who's guessing wrong and going into this area that I think one day a Walmart will come, and they don't, or maybe they do, but it takes a lot longer. So then I go on and find the 5% in these markets. Now, the reason I do this is because, like I said, I'd never been to Kansas City in my entire life. So I didn't know a good neighborhood from a bad neighborhood, so I just wanted to follow the 5%. If you visit this market over and over, you already travel there, you got friends and family, you may already know where's a good neighborhood and a bad neighborhood. So you might not need to do this. But for those of you who are entertaining a market that you've never even stepped foot in once in your life, or maybe even, maybe a few times, but you have no idea of where you should be, go onto Google Earth and let the 5% tell you where you should be. So pick your market by growing population, economy, investing into itself, then find where the 5% is, and then from there, you're going to want to start to build your power team. Once you know the neighborhoods and the areas you're going to want to invest in as a virtual investor, then you're going to invest the time it takes to build your power team, right? And here's the thing, you really want to pour a lot of energy into building your power team, because these are the people you're going to depend on, who are going to be your eyes and ears on the ground for you in that market, since you just can't fly there, you're just not going to pick up, let's say your property manager calls you and says, hey, there's a problem here, or your contractor calls you and say, here's a problem here. Unlike if you lived in Salt Lake City and the property was in Salt Lake City, you could just drive over there real quick and look at it. No, you're not going to get in a plane and fly to Kansas City, Oklahoma, Atlanta, Indianapolis, Arkansas, wherever, right? So you have to find the best power team. Okay, now, obviously, once you find the best power team, then you're going to be able to start your investing activity. But so many people don't even know where to start. So what I wanted to share with you is, first, research the cities that have a growing economy and population, also investment that are happening in that market by the 5%. After you've located the 5% in there, then build your power team. And once you've done that, then yes, there's going to be differences obviously in due diligence and renovating a home and property management. But from there, if you've got a power team, you've got people you can depend on to assist you in growing your real estate business. Now, we could talk a lot more about virtual investing, of course, but I wanted to just kind of share that in the share those kind of tips for you, so you have a beginning to kind of start with. And then from there, obviously, you can grow your business to however long you want to, however far you want to take it. I mentioned earlier that I had dedicated the show to the people who invested in my real estate course. Believe it or not, I created a real estate course, and it teaches all about the virtual investing world because, again, that's how my career started. And if you have any questions about virtual investing, I'd love to chat with you. Feel free to give me a call. But it is time to now wish you all a very wonderful weekend. You guys have been listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM, the show Utah Home Sweet Home. Again, I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and I want to wish you guys all a wonderful New Year's. We will be back on January 2nd. Believe it or not, that is my last show, because from there, I will be making the transition to Good Things Utah on television. All right, enjoy your weekend.
No phone, but with Grasshopper, you
All right.
phone number and a business phone system on our mobile app, so you
Yeah,
can
she
work
died.
smart, not
Yes,
Grasshopper.
I forgot because I used her yesterday for Christmas.
Oh. Yeah.
Luckily, she's just a backup. I heard her beep, but I knew instantly.
I was like, maybe I click record again, so I was like,
Yeah.
it's so. Yeah, and if you really watched,
All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation on discovering what your why is. Tony Robbins talks about your why a lot. One of my good mentors and friends, John Dassauer, shares with me what your why a lot. And so I wanted to share that with you because once you discover truly what your why is, and it's a strong enough why, there's nothing that can stop you to achieve your goals, your dreams. Now, maybe I shouldn't say nothing. Obviously, death could stop you, but nothing will stop you from continuing to try until that day where it all comes to an end. You will be able to tap into the why, keep that motivation, and progress forward to achieve your dreams. And that is why I wanted to discuss figuring out what your why is so that you too can tap into that and make 2021, I said 2021. Yeah, 2021, the best year ever.
okay, ready? Go.
Yep. Hey guys, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or comments, please don't forget to put them down in the comment section below. And thanks again so much for watching.